What's going on?
I can feel the blood creeping up from the heathens. Got will, got fight, got pride, got reason. If they wanna go eat, then you know I'm gon' feed them. If you're coming for me, hope you're ready for a demon. I got eyes in the back of my head, I'm seeing. Take me for granted and you know I'm leaving. I'ma take what's mine with the webs I'm weaving. I could take this crowd from seeing to believing. Got a taste for blood and my tongue keeps bleeding. From the words I spit, so sharp, so freezing. So cold, behold, frostbite they feeling. I could tear you apart or I could go heal them. Don't believe in fate, don't believe in ceilings. I just need a taste and my mind starts feeling. I don't pace myself, I grind on kneeling. Got lust for change, I just love the feeling. I ain't gonna give up. Got too little time, I'ma live up. Head down, push forward through the tough times. Cause anything worth doing is a tough climb. I ain't gonna give up. Got too little time, I'ma live up. Head down, push forward through the tough times. Cause anything worth doing is a tough climb. Cause I'ma live life for the fight, yeah, I'm here to get it. I got drive, got sight, always have a vision. I go by at night, I be in my feelings. I'ma be fine, need time, and I'll soon be winning. I live life for the fight, yeah, I'm here to get it. I got drive, got sight, always have a vision. I go by at night, I be in my feelings. I'ma be fine, need time, and I'll soon be winning. I can feel the blood creeping up from the heathens. Got will, got fight, got pride, got reason. If they wanna go eat, then you know I'm gon' feed them. If you're coming for me, hope you're ready for a demon. I can feel the blood creeping up from the heathens. Got will, got fight, got pride, got reason. If they wanna go eat, then you know I'm gon' feed them. If you're coming for me, hope you're ready for a demon.
Robert, I'm sorry, Robert. I'm sorry. Oh, I'm just practicing. Oh, sorry, Ken. Because you never know what's going to happen here. So I'm waiting to see what's going to go on tonight. I'm kind of nervous. Good evening, everybody, and welcome to Dead Air Live and the Dead Air Full Spectrum channel. It is our live Sunday night show. Welcome back to each and every one of you. Good to see you there in the chat. And we are excited to bring you the next 2 hours in and around the topic of the paranormal. Don't forget, hit that subscribe button. Also, the thumbs up and the reminder bell. Always important. It helps with the algorithm. And that's all I got to say about that. Ken, how you doing tonight, sir?
I'm doing well. Up here in the Northeast, we managed to, I think, dig ourselves out after about 40 inches of snow. I'm not sure when we turned into Buffalo, New York, but here we are. But all good here.
Is all of it gone, or is it still?
Oh, no. Oh, no. Oh, no. We're going to keep it around for New Year's Eve, actually. Christmas time, already be snow on the ground.
I saw so many shorts on Facebook of the Rhode Island area during the storm and after the storm. And most of it was horrific looking. The funny ones were when the dogs were trying to jump into the snow after, but everything else looked just horrendous up there. So glad you made it out okay. No power loss or anything, huh?
No, very, very momentarily, about half a dozen times for like 20 seconds apiece. And I'm sitting there mad because I got to reset my cable TV, right? So, but never happy,
No. And I know a lot of our Patreon members were telling us of from the New England area, of their stories, trials and tribulations with this storm that you guys weathered through. But everybody seemed to be okay, and we're glad. And, hopefully that's it for you guys for the rest of the year.
Yeah. Well, from your lips to God's ears, I hope so. So I'm ready to get outside and do some stuff. I'm also ready for this tonight. This is going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah, let's turn up the heat, Ken. Go ahead.
All right. Now, tonight you may see some familiar faces, but tonight we want to talk about haunted objects. In particular, dolls are said to be among the most disturbing items that people encounter. But what if you actually pay them a visit? And what if the one you chose is one of the two most infamous and unnerving dolls in existence? Well, our guest tonight did just that recently. Some familiar faces, as I mentioned tonight, but collectively they call themselves the Whispering Ridge Syndicate. So it sounds like a mob to me.
Trademark pending.
Yeah. So they're here to tell us all about their trip. So please welcome Tej, Mitch, Morgan, and Eric, Whispering Ridge Syndicate. Hi, folks.
Hello.
Hello.
No.
That's terrifying. That name. What? Oh my God! I'm sorry, Robert, for looking at you, even though
Oh
you're the small Robert.
Woo!
Oh, who's this?
Why do we call
Paranormal
ourselves
Creatures
that?
Community.
Hi,
Hello.
Schaefer.
Hey. Yeah, I don't know why we call ourselves that. Eric, didn't you come up with that?
no, Mitchell came up with like Whispering Ridge something, and I was like, well, Whispering Ridge is cool, but we need something for like unification. And I was just like Googling, hey, what do cults call themselves without calling themselves cults? And Syndicate popped up in my thesaurus, and I was like, okay, that sounds cool.
That's the one.
Yeah, it's very original.
Yep, check it
Kind
out.
of sounds like a 90s country rock group.
It does, yeah.
Whispering Ridge Syndicate.
I'm okay with that.
I like
It
it
worked.
a lot.
Better than Whispering Ridge buddies.
People.
Buddies.
Yeah, I mean,
Pals.
see, it needs to sound like mysterious, kind of.
How you guys doing? Though everybody okay? Everybody weathering the winter?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, we're
Oh,
Winter's all but done here in
It's
the
so
Appalachians.
warm,
Yeah.
yeah. Thank God.
Must be nice.
No.
we got
It's so
about
nice.
2 more
Hey,
months.
It's so nice.
Yeah, just gotta keep an eye in the chat for Morgan and Eric for all the bad statements to you guys for talking about how nice it is, because they're dealing with it still up in the Northeast. How about Chicago?
It's cold. It's cold, like 30s right now.
It was 60 on Friday,
Yeah, it's not anymore
and then it went down to 25 the next day.
because
That is
here
whiplash.
when you say
it's
60,
for
what's
one
that with the
day
wind
and
chill?
It was probably like 50 degrees.
yeah, it's not that bad.
It's-
Not that bad. But we alternate. We go from winter to summer like a couple times before it actually goes to like spring.
Yeah.
So
Gotcha.
it's normal
Well,
here.
tonight we're going to turn the temperature down even more with some of the chilling tales of your guys' encounters with certain specific dolls. But we'll continue into diving into more of the dolls as we continue through the show. But I'm going to leave screen so Ken can take over for right now, and you guys have a great conversation.
Cool.
Okay, thank you, George. So, what do you guys want to talk about? Anything cool happened lately?
You know,
Nah.
we went to the beach.
Went to the
we
beach.
got key lime pie.
Tried to
Yeah.
find some aliens.
I want to mention up front that Tej was kind enough to send me some video clips, and we'll be getting to those. So we're kind of laid back here. So Tej, whenever you want to call them up, just say, play that one.
I don't even remember which ones I sent you.
Well, you got two reviews. You got two reviews. Laptop, you got a Robert flyby, I call it.
Oh, okay.
You have a wave session that's about 4 minutes long. That's cool. And
Okay.
a trailer.
Okay,
So-
so the trailer is like the overall kind of glimpse of what we did. So maybe do that one first. The ones at our house we'll do last. Because
Okay.
that's the after we came home and stuff started to happen at our house.
All right. So we'll get to that in a little bit. We'll play the teaser or the teaser. We'll play the teaser.
Teacher.
I kind of like that.
Oh.
I kind of like that.
That's good.
You can use that if you want to. That's fine.
Patent pending.
Pat
And
pending.
There it is.
All right. So I'm going to get into some questions because I want to talk about obviously your visit, the results, your experience there, but I want to at some point try to relate it back to the paranormal field. And you'll see where I'm going with this. So I'll tell you what, so we don't lose track of this. Let's go with the teacher right now.
All right.
Also, some people are mean things to you, and that's not very nice. But sometimes stuff happens to them after they leave. Do you know anything about that? Yeah. What happens?
They rest.
From being mean. Hi, Robert. Robert, have you liked getting to know our new friends we brought? Yeah, I'm so happy to hear that. There's like something rolling off of me.
Are you still speaking to Lainey?
This is like switching. There's like somebody standing over me.
All right. So that sets the stage for tonight. One of these days, I truly want to see Robert just cock his head and say, "Sup." Hey, Robert, what are you up to? It's all good.
It's all
Well,
good.
that was something David joked about. Like David is so great about like myth busting and stuff
Mhm.
like that. And he kept saying, he's like, there's this whole thing that people think they have to ask him permission to take their photo, but like, what do you think is going to happen? He's just going to turn and look at you and be like, yes, you can. Thumbs up. Go ahead. Like, he's
And
like,
like
you
at
can't
that
respond.
point, you don't want the picture.
Exactly.
So
So I mean, so somebody insults Robert. What's the worst that can happen?
Death.
Uh,
let's call Ozzy and ask because
What was that all
apparently.
about? All right,
Ozzy
so
Osbourne is still a Robert trigger. And that is
yeah.
still a trigger because every time Ozzy Osbourne's name was stated, and we were like, wow, this is like still a
Yeah.
problem. So
all right, so I got to ask the obvious thing first. So you can go around the horn here. We'll start with Morgan. We'll go left to right. So first impressions when you walk into that museum and you see Robert the Doll, who you've probably heard about for years and years and years and years and years, and his story, and then suddenly it's right in front of you. So how'd that make you feel?
I mean, so he's not in a containment box, thank God, right? He's just in something to protect his vessel. You can feel the energy, like
Mm.
everywhere. He's just a lot, which there's how many spirits attached to him, Taylor? Over 100?
that's what David said. Yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, you can definitely feel that. Um, I honestly didn't feel an ounce of negativity the way people talk, which I didn't with Annabelle either. I just felt sad. I could tell that there was an energy shift whenever more of us piled into the room because initially we did a tour with other people. And so we were all kind of gathered around him to watch that video with David in it, where he's telling the story with Jean. And I could tell that there was a little bit of like an anxious shift. But I mean, yeah, I think just a powerful, big, bold energy was my first impression.
Hmm. How about you, Eric?
Yeah, it was very kind of enveloping the energy. But that's just because his energy is so. It's just like a really like powerful energy, very big energy. Um, and I know some of that's just coming from like anticipation that I had from going to meet him. But yeah, like Morgan said, absolutely nothing vindictive or maleficent or anything like that. It
Hmm.
was just honestly, it felt like kind of like excited energy, and I feel like part of that was because Taylor and Mitchell had already come to see him before that.
Yeah.
That could have been because he was excited to see them again, and it was like, oh, they brought friends. But yeah, nothing bad. Only positive energy, really.
Yeah, I can't say as I'm surprised that there was nothing negative there. But yeah, I want to finish this up. Mitch, Tej, first time newbies to Robert. How was it?
Oh,
Yeah.
there we go. Sorry.
So he really fills up the space. I think a lot of times so the way it's set up is there's a hallway on one side of him and a hallway on the other side of him, but he kind of has his own little space, and you can tell that he kind of has, I think, like ownership over that space. And I think it's just a curious, energy that he has. He's just excited to meet people, I think, But as what kind of we've talked about, he's very reflective of the energy that's being presented to him. So
Mm.
I think if someone goes in and they're very, very nervous, I think he might also react that way.
Yeah, so we had an interesting experience because right when we got off the airplane, the museum is literally right outside of the airport. And so we got off the airplane. David came and picked us up at the airport. He's like, "Oh, do you want to stop by and say hi before you go to your hotel?" So we had stopped by for like a few minutes before we came back for our investigation later. And when we got there, I was so surprised by the energy in that room. Like, I'm not super sensitive to energy. You know, I know a lot of people like report feeling things. Like I'm just not typically. So I was really surprised. Like it was like my hands were like shaky and I got like all like excited and kind of like this giddy, like happy feeling. And Mitchell actually had a headache getting off the airplane that went away when we went in that room. And so it was actually like an overwhelmingly positive experience. Again, we didn't go in there scared. We didn't bring this like, oh my gosh, it's Robert the Doll energy to him.
Right.
Um, but I could definitely see how if somebody went in there acting a type of way, he would be a spirit to react heavily to that because he is very like kind of responsive and like nervous. But in general, like we had a great experience with him, and it was a lot of energy in the room. But again, it was nothing like threatening or overbearing or feeling sick, anything like that. It was overwhelmingly very positive.
Right. Let me ask you a quick question here to get a quick answer. Every one of you talked about energy in the room. Just want to ask how much of you think that's the residue that visitors leave behind because they come in with preconceived ideas and they bring a certain energy. So anything that just seems off, it may not be bad or anything to you. You didn't get that vibe, but how much of that do you think that that's left behind by the people who visit the museum?
I
Yeah,
think a lot.
I think that's definitely some of it. I mean, I think the other thing a lot of people might not realize is where Robert is like an
It's an old fort,
old
yeah.
Civil War fort that has had a lot of tragedy within itself.
Mm-hmm.
So I think there's a lot of other things going on around there besides Robert, besides things that are affected by Robert, that could also play an impact on like the space around it. I think it's a very emotionally charged space,
Yeah.
positively and negatively, which I think really adds to the kind of overall feeling that you get from that space.
Yeah, and I think haunted objects in general, and I feel this way about the paranormal as a whole. Like I think a lot of what we see has to do with the people's energy and what they bring to the space. And spirits can feed off of that. So I do think there's a degree of that with Robert where a lot of kind of this power that he has comes from the energy, positive and negative, that and attention that people bring to that space because it's a lot. It is a lot.
Right. Well, I could imagine. Morgan, Eric, you got a quick something you want to add to that?
Um, I mean, no, I don't think so. I do think Taylor is right, and I think Mitchell said this too, that he mirrors things a lot, like kind of whatever you give bounces back. And I do, thinking back, whenever I felt that nervous energy, the people that were with us when we did that initial group, because we were waiting on David, who had to do a podcast, so we just went early, they didn't investigate Robert at all. So
No.
now I'm
Mm-hmm.
thinking he might have scared them a little bit. And that could explain why, yeah.
Yeah, and I felt like, and obviously I could be incorrect with this, but with some of the other people that were with us, I kind of felt like skeptical energy coming off of them. Some of them maybe felt like kind of amused at the thought. Maybe even some of them planned on, throwing a little insult at Robert. And when they saw him, I felt the energy shift into scared. Like some of them definitely felt scared. But yeah, when it comes to the energy left from others, um, I mostly felt positive energy from the love that Robert had been given. I mean, there was,
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure we'll get into this, but there's a ton of items that Robert has with him, like notes, letters, offerings that people give Robert. There's like as much fear as people think Robert receives, he receives twice as that in love.
You can also tell how much the people at that museum actually care about him.
Mm-hmm. Especially David.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, I'm going to ask you to indulge me for a bit because I'm going to go the way back machine here. A lot of our viewers do remember when we had David Sloan on. Tej, you joined him. You guys kind of met that night. Call you both the doll keepers. But David is the doll keeper of Robert the doll. And that particular night, I think that David surprised a lot of people with the background and the research he did. And it may have been surprising because the curtains kind of got pulled back a little bit. But I mean, this is a guy who traveled to Germany, to the place where Robert was created, right? So he's invested in this stuff. But I mean, he let us know that asking him to take a photo or you disrespect him at your own risk. Um, but he told the story of Robert and the people related to his story. So we can kind of take a lot of the legends and myths and put them over here and say, hey, cool story, bro. But knowing the truth, how does that impact you as investigators? Secondly, how do you think that it impacts the entire field? Because there are a lot of stories where the person who did this never existed or the deed they committed never happened. I mean, what's the impact that you think that has on you, knowing the truth going in? You can put all this aside. And how do you think the field accepts the idea that sometimes, things aren't what they seem or what you hope?
That is a great question. That is a hard question. I think in general with I see this especially with haunted objects a lot more than I see with haunted locations.
Mm-hmm.
People love to have something to blame for their own internal circumstances, and investigators are no exception there. A lot of times an investigator will go do something and then something bad will happen to them, a couple weeks later, and then it's like, oh, well, it's because I went to that location. And I think it's very easy to do that when you're in a field where there's so much unknown, and so many things you don't understand. But with these haunted dolls, Annabelle as well, I think it's very easy to, have something really bad happen in your life. And it's easier to say, hey, this doll is responsible or this external force is responsible. It's easier
Sure.
to say that than to admit that just something really bad happened in your life. And so I think these spirits take a lot of blame for a lot of things that may just be coincidence, may just be timeline based, and I think that's hard for people to accept. And just being online, I know Morgan as well, we've been doing a lot of like education around those myths and stuff like that. And even knowing that it's a myth, like people will not accept that or hear it. It's like, well, I went there and I got stomach flu 3 days later. Robert did it. It's like, maybe you just got stomach flu because you were on a freaking airplane, like, so I think it's hard for people to accept that these things are myths because it's easier for them to think that a spirit is responsible for something than just something bad happened to them. So that's always been my thought. It's just sometimes, an external force is just the easier thing to blame. So that's kind of my take on it. I've never been one to blame like tragedy on haunted objects. I don't exactly like understand that, but that's just me.
Anybody else wants to weigh in? I mean, as far as impact, is it a positive impact on you to know that, okay, we don't have to worry about this? We can get right to something else. And do you think the field is better off for, not following the legends and the myths all the time? And
I
again,
think,
if
yeah,
it can be a waste of time.
I think that that kind of separates a storyteller from a paranormal investigator because I kind of do both. I love telling scary stories, but and it's a good story. It's really interesting to think that hey, a servant got really mad and made Robert use some sort of voodoo, gave this doll to this little boy, and the family fell apart because of it, but we know that's not what happened. And I think when I look at it, I prefer knowing the truth, because I feel like I can ask more accurate questions. I know what I'm looking for.
Mhm.
But I mean, I guess some people that just like the stories, it's not as good of a story that, the same company that made the teddy bear made this window clown mannequin. I mean, it's not as scary of a story, but I think it's really helpful to have the truth.
Hmm. Well, I mean, the thing is, as investigators, we're not just here to tell scary stories, right?
Exactly.
I mean, a lot of times research and background dispels these myths and legends that the tour guides tell or the little mini documentaries you see on TV tell because, the salacious details are going to move the needle. And, it is what it is. But I mean, have you ever been disappointed yourself when you might have found out that the Easter Bunny isn't going to show up at the location you're at right now? Because I will cop to myself. I've been disappointed a couple of times. Usually, when people who work there or you're talking to them, yeah, I never had anything happen here or that did, because a lot of them are just intense historians too. So I don't know if they're not under some kind of an agreement not to share anything. I don't mind having that conversation with them. And there's been a couple times I'm like, oh well, you know,
I think
okay.
for me, I don't get disappointed. I'm happy to get whatever the truth is. Like I want to go to a location and I want to know what is actually going on. I don't want what people think is going on. As an investigator, like my primary goal is to seek the truth, even if that truth is different than the expectation I went in with. Which is part of why, like, before I go to any location, and that includes Robert, like, I try really hard not to get wrapped up in the stories. I don't go looking for a specific spirit that all of these people have talked about.
Mhm.
Like I go in and I try to be as unbiased as possible and just have the experience for what the experience is rather than seeking somebody else's experience. And in doing that, like I feel like I've learned so much as an investigator, and we have found so many things we didn't expect that were even more incredible than what I would have thought. So, my thing is like I'm looking for the truth. I'm not looking for, the story. And so in that way, like I'm relieved when I find something different because like, there's some of these stories that like if you really look at them and you look at the history of them, like they just don't even make sense. Like the timelines don't match up, the facts aren't straight, they don't match up to historical records. And so they don't make sense to begin with. And so when I go in there and I find something else, I'm like, oh, okay, like I do see how this could have been turned into this along the way. It's like playing telephone, the story passes from person to person. But for me, I'm kind of happy about that, to be honest with you.
Well, fair enough. Fair enough.
Coming from a group of people who do research before we go to a haunted location or before we go to see like a haunted object, um, at least for me, I'm not sure if like you feel different or anything like this. I really haven't had any disappointment or anything like that. Like we did a bunch of research on not only Robert the Doll, but on some of the other haunted locations
Well,
in
we
Key
do. Taylor
West.
doesn't research
Yeah,
anything.
when I say we, I mean me and
Like,
Morgan in this
I think
case.
Robert was the exception because Taylor, you just knew a lot about
I
him.
Yeah,
just
you
knew too
already
much.
had a bunch of
I
information
knew
about
too
him.
much going into that one. Yeah.
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 But like when we went to the Bell Witch Cave, Taylor knew the bare bones because
Yeah.
I knew everything and she was like, "Shut up, don't tell me, don't tell me."
But in that case, it's kind of like on a different side because Taylor's like, I don't want to know anything. I want to experience it all for myself. And that's totally respectable. I get that. But whenever we do research, we like to go, and if it's something different, that's all the more like, you learn something different than what's been popularized or what the common idea is behind a location. Kind of like the Bell Witch Cave and with Robert the Doll. I mean, it's completely different from what the popular urban legend is.
Yeah, it's a matter
Truth
of
is better.
managing
Yeah.
expectations. I mean, we see the same thing at the Conjuring House up here. I mean,
Mhm.
Hmm.
what can you imagine that's like with making a motion picture about it?
Yeah.
right? And a
Yeah.
franchise, it's like, it's wow. You got to, I mean, it's like deprogramming people, you know, it really is. So, hey, why don't we play a couple of these clips? The first one I got, Tay, is I just call it review one. You're at a laptop, it looks like reviewing some things when you see it. Looks
Oh,
like
never gonna bring it home.
some
Yeah.
kind of drawings involved,
Yeah.
computer generated drawings. Okay,
Yeah.
so let's play that and see what happens.
Okay, so check this out. You can see these are the folklore pictures, right? Watch what happens.
Home to a combination of both human and non-human spirits, or that the portal within him allows for multiple entities with different natures to
Just
coexist
keeps
and
bringing the
interact.
spirit box session
This
back.
raises additional questions. If there is a cabal presence, why would these cabals
There's
be
no
so
video on the
loyal to this
timeline.
specific little girl? Where did they come from, and what is it about her that
What?
draws them?
Okay, so there's probably a lot of people going, what? So,
Yeah.
what is the program? I assume that is some type of program that you're using there.
Yes, so that is iMovie. We had a lot of technology issues related to this specific trip. Actually, we had more technology issues related to the firehouse than we did with Robert, but we did have some with Robert. So that is on iMovie. What you're seeing is I have on the timeline the pictures that I put in the video. So those should be the pictures showing up on the video. But
Mhm.
what's going into the video is a totally different clip that's not there. And then if you look on the timeline, it keeps playing this old video, even though there's not supposed to be any video or audio whatsoever going on. So I had tons of technology related things when I was editing this specific video. Um, it started off as my microphone was all static. I ruled out all of the technology related things, unplugged it, replugged it in, different microphone, restarted the software, restarted the computer, all of that. It kept happening. So then I said out loud, I was like, oh, if this has anything to do with Robert, because it happened like 5, 6 times. If this has anything to do with Robert, um, like let me record it normally, and then if it doesn't, like let's just keep having this issue. And right when I said that out loud, my microphone started working normally. And then that happened. And then while all of these editing things are going on, that security camera footage, Ken, that you have of the room, that
Yep.
happened at the exact same time that all of this was going on. So if you want to show that one, that goes with it.
Okay, let's take 30 seconds to look at the second one and then we'll go right into that, Teach.
Yeah.
Or that the portal within him allows for multiple entities with different natures to coexist and interact. This raises additional questions. If there is a cabal presence, why would these cabals be so loyal to this specific...
Here, have you met some of them?
So you can see that video is not on the timeline, but it's playing on the screen as if it is.
How is this here? It doesn't make sense.
All right, so a little bit later on,
At the exact same time.
at the exact same time,
Yeah.
you're reviewing these. All right, here
Yeah.
we go.
On film. So watch the bottom left where it has.
Following the session, David shared something unexpected. During the access method
Yes, the
session, he
cat's
said that with
walking.
his own eyes, he could see a visible glow
The
or
poor
aura surrounding
cats.
Robert, something he had never witnessed before in all of his years of working with him. The timing stood out too, as it occurred specifically during active communication. Recognizing how unusual this was, he immediately took out his camera and was able to catch the glow on film.
What you're hearing is me editing. We're all so confused.
Now it's just another day at the house. Dolls are probably upset you two-timed them with Robert. So
Yes. So those boxes that fell over were these. Which is really interesting about the whole thing is it was the two Robert dolls that fell down. And that was all while I was editing. So I didn't know what that was about. I didn't know if that was a haunted doll here, if it was Robert related, what was going on. So a couple days later, I pulled one of my haunted dolls on for a wave session. Wave is the speaker spirit box we use. And I was like, oh, was that you guys, or was he here or something like that? And she said something to the effect of like, and I was like, no, I don't know, can you tell me? And she says on the spirit box, like, Robert did it, he did it. And then and I was like, what was he doing? And she goes, touching. And I was like, oh, okay, I guess, I wouldn't call that touching. It was a little harder than touching, but okay. So it was not somebody in my house, which is very, very interesting. So yeah.
Okay. Wonderful.
Hearing Robert did it would have sent a chill down my
Yeah,
spine.
I know.
It was bizarre. I was like a little weirded out.
I don't know. Maybe they were there when he actually did do it. So
Yeah. She was like, he was touching. And I was like, yeah, he touched something. That's for sure. It was more of a, he punched it, but I mean, touching works. Sure. So
wanted to tell everybody before we go any further, if you have any questions for Whispering Ridge Syndicate, why do I want to say Whispering Ridge Pines all the time? Sounds like a campground.
It does sound like a campground.
Whispering Ridge Syndicate. Please put them in chat, and I promise that we'll get to them tonight. All right, I got a couple of minutes before I bring George in here. So take us inside the museum a little bit, because I'm going to assume that your investigation, for the most part, it focused on Robert, but you had other areas too. Were there any other areas? Because I can't get a visual. I've seen pictures that were charged, or somehow something adjacent to him, or something around him.
Oh,
Morgan feeling.
I think I asked the right question because.
Yeah, go ahead, you guys. Go ahead.
I think this is an Eric answer.
Oh, is this an Eric answer?
Eric
almost passed out.
Yeah,
yes, I did. I did pass out.
Eric was almost a goner.
So, starting off in the, like Mitchell said, this was a Civil War fort. During obviously for the Confederacy, it was in Florida. You walk through the main lobby entrance, and you're in what was the very first room that you enter right when you?
Shop.
Huh?
It's the gift shop right when you walk in.
After the gift shop.
Oh gosh.
What did he call it?
If you go to the right,
was it the Captain Morgan room?
Yeah, it's like that hallway. Yeah, it's that hallway.
Yeah, there's a small hallway that was rather inactive, and then you go into, I think it was actually the dungeon right before you got to the Captain Morgan hallway. We'll get back on the Captain Morgan thing, because we did that all after Robert the Doll.
That was weird.
But after you walked through there, you walked into this place that David so lovingly referred to as the tunnel. Now, aside from all of the haunted stuff that was inside of the tunnel, including Marie Laveau's stone and several other haunted objects, this tunnel during the Civil War was used to hold the deceased bodies of people who had passed away from yellow fever. And because Key West is such a remote area, they would hold hundreds of bodies at a time before anyone could come. And I think I was the first person to go through the tunnel. And
I don't know why we did that.
You were in front of me, and I was like, I'm going to have to push him through here to get him.
No, literally, because the second I step into the tunnel, I feel literally hundreds of spirits just swarm towards me. And I had to take a knee. I'm stumbling side to side. I'm hitting the handrails. I can't see, aside from the fact that it's pitch black. Whatever little light is in there, I can't see. I'm mumbling to myself. I didn't come to until we were at the end of the hallway.
We had to step outside.
Yeah, we all had to go outside because of this. But like I said, there's other haunted objects in there. One of them being Marie Laveau's stone.
But after that happened, we had Taylor in the tunnel. I don't know why. Apparently we wanted more torture for everyone. But I remember something popping up behind her. Do you guys remember that?
When I went down by myself like a crazy person. I don't know.
You were doing the K2 at the time. I think.
Yeah, I
We
don't
we were
remember what
setting
I
up
was doing.
equipment.
Yeah, I was.
And we actually have footage of this. There's just this big mass behind Taylor.
It just
that
rises, yeah.
touching the ceiling. It like peeks out, and when we all call it out, it like went back behind the corner.
Well, because I went down there, I was like, "Does anybody want to touch my hand?" Because what was I doing? I don't know. Sometimes I do things like I get an adrenaline rush and do something stupid. But
Eric
like,
got knocked out here. Allow me to go down here by myself.
and this like huge black statue or shadow comes like over my head, and it's like, well, yeah, clearly somebody wanted to touch my hand. Great job.
So what you're saying, Em, is obviously Robert's the star attraction there,
There's a lot.
but the space, the building as itself, is a little bit underrated.
A lot, yeah. We didn't even get to do
yeah.
everything. Like we didn't even go to
It's
this
huge.
one center section called the Citadel, which was like the main section of the fort inside the walls. We didn't even get to do that. There is so much at this fort, this museum.
Yeah.
Well, and that's something else to like think about too, is like people never talk about just the museum as a whole and how haunted the actual museum is. And I do have to wonder if some of what is attributed to Robert is not even Robert. It's just other things going on in that museum that people are having happen. And Robert, being the star of the show, just takes the blame for everything that goes on in that museum. I mean, there's like dozens of spirits in there. I mean, there's a lot of stuff going on.
I can see that. I can see that. I'm going to be back a little bit later. We'll finish off the videos. There's a couple that I'm sure you folks are going to be interested in. So again, if you have questions tonight for anybody, put them in chat. We'll get them there. So I'm going to bring in George right now. Hey, reminder that you folks may be joining us for the first time, popping in. Consider subscribing. Why not?
Do it. Dead air is the best.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Ken.
All right, I got my compliment. I'm out of here.
We are speaking to Morgan, Eric, Tej, and Mitch, members of the Wildly Rich Mobsters Paranormal. I'm not sure what it is. Yes, Wildly Rich Mobsters Paranormal joining us tonight. This question is for Eric and Mitch. Aren't you a little too old to be playing with dolls?
You would
I
think.
wouldn't say it to my face.
Listen, we have the two of ours behind us that would beg to differ.
Ours are downstairs.
Yep.
But
I really want to know, because again, you have dolls surrounding you at your homes. You have been to see Robert the Doll. Have both of you, or the four of you, have you gone to see Annabelle?
We did separately.
Yeah, we all
but
did in separate intervals.
And in all of these circumstances, there's not been one even hint that the negativity of what has been promoted behind these spirits existed there. So, and I'm not going to go down the obvious trail, which is, people who want the likes and views, so they create the scenario like that. But the other part of it, case in point, Ed and Lorraine Warren deciding that Annabelle had a demonic spirit attached to it. What I'm really wondering in a lot of these circumstances, if the people that surrounded these dolls had some sort of negative energy surrounding them, poltergeist activity surrounding them, and the dolls became the focal point of these stories, but had nothing to do with them whatsoever. Your thoughts?
I think that's entirely very possible.
Yeah.
Yeah, especially in particular with Annabelle.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think people try and rationalize things they don't understand in a way that they do understand. And I think if it can be as simple as, oh, that thing, looks creepy, that must be the reason why this is happening, which, it doesn't really make a lot of sense. But I think it can absolutely, be a reason why.
Part of
also, unfortunately, with that, calling something demonic gains clout.
Yeah. Sure. Yeah. It's a huge money grab. I think part of the reason I love working with haunted dolls is like I actually love myth busting a lot of this stuff. And one of the things that I see a lot is I think more than haunted locations, more than anything else, haunted dolls get demonized more than anything else, and are feared more than anything else, because they have a visual, for like a ghost at a location, it's, it's invisible. You can't see it. When you have a visual, like you do in the case of Robert or Annabelle or any of these other famous notorious haunted dolls, when you have a visual, it's much easier to point the finger and be like, look, like that is the demon. That, we have a physical thing to look at and blame. And I think that is a little bit easier for people to grasp than say something you can't see. So I think just having a physical representation, and some of these physical representations, there are cute ones and ones that aren't as, you know, don't have that look, but that haunted look people talk about, which haunted doesn't have a look, but a lot of times with haunted dolls, people think, if a doll is creepy, that automatically means that it's evil or it's negative or it's a demon or whatever it may be. So I think just the fact that there's a visual on it makes it a lot easier to demonize. And it's also a lot easier to make money on because you can cart them around the country and have people pay for tickets to see them,
Yeah,
which you
but
can't do with a location.
Annabelle couldn't be any more of a benevolent form.
Oh, I think Annabelle is, I don't think she's a demon. I don't think she's even anything negative, to be
No,
quite honest.
no, but why demonize something like a Raggedy Ann doll is what my point is. And again, I don't know in the realm of energy and spirits if size matters. Robert is not a small doll. Annabelle is not a small doll. But in your experiences and in the research that you've done, does it matter? Can there be, a doll only 6 inches tall that can have just as powerful a force
Yeah.
as a Robert or an Annabelle?
Oh,
Oh,
yeah. I mean, we
absolutely.
have ones that are like, this big, tiny, tiny little ones. Um, I think I don't know. I have a lot of theories about what with Annabelle in particular. I think with Robert was just this like kind of Key West icon because he was in that window and so many people saw him and so many people heard about him. I don't think it really had anything to do with how he looked. I think it was just the legacy that he had and the amount of history they have on that particular doll. But with Annabelle, I think, you have to think about where she came from, which is these university nursing students. And, like college girls get scared by stuff. And they probably had some degree of real paranormal activity going on in their home, may or may not be Annabelle. They got really, really, really scared. And when people are scared, a lot of times they over exaggerate stories. And then that story sounds really great for media and gets blown into a huge thing, where it's a demon and it's this and it's that. So, with a lot of these stories, it's not that I don't think they're haunted. I think they are haunted, but I think, the initial fear of just paranormal activity by somebody who doesn't have experience with that, I think their interpretation of their fear, you get the wrong investigator who's exposed to that, and they're going to take that and run, with something to sell. So I think that's kind of what happens, to be honest with you, with some of these.
There was a place I worked where my manager was walking through another part of the building and actually literally ran through or walked through, didn't wasn't looking up, was on looking at the phone, and it was an apparition, and walked through that apparition and all of a sudden became nauseous and I said that you just kind of cross wires. It is my feeling in a lot of these locations where these particular dolls are on display, but it could happen with regards to a house with activity too. I think people bring not only their own energies, but they do have attachments. They do have those other spirits that follow them, and those wires get crossed. And I think that's when things start to activate, whether it is something that is uh, physical, emotional. But that's where I think a lot of these people they go in to see a Robert the Doll, or they go in to see an Annabelle, and something happens with them, and right away, I'm going to focus on this display case to be the problem and not me. Would you
I could
agree with that philosophy?
Yeah,
100%,
for sure.
100%. Yeah.
Yeah. People can absolutely also manifest their own experiences. I mean, if you go looking for something to happen, it will. But if, like you said, with just someone going in and then just something randomly happening, yeah, it's a lot easier to blame it on something corporeal than just, oh, there's a lot of energy in this room.
A lot of it's self manifestation, but I'm looking above that also. You guys started the show talking about energy. So, the energy of the individual, the vibrations of the individual. but they could carry with them the burden of other energies that are
Yeah,
with them as
I could
well.
see that. I
And
could
that,
totally see that.
yeah, and that could be interactive with anything, animate, inanimate, all these different things that come into play in these locations. So let me ask you this: in both your homes, you have these dolls, and they seem to be, for all aspects, they seem to be fairly docile. They're not
Mhm.
aggressive. They're not attacking friends or family that come into your home. It has to be again the energies that you create surrounding them.
I agree with that because we have a couple of haunted dolls who have caused harm in prior environments but have never caused harm here. And I think that, there's something to be said about that is why is the same object, a spirit scratching and acting out and leaving bruises and causing headaches and illness in one home, and then you put them somewhere else and they're completely stabilized. Like, what does that tell us about our behavior? And I've always, like, that's something I've been exploring a lot in the past year in particular is, going to even a location, the same location several times with different people and having a really good experience one time when you have people who aren't scared and who go in with an open mind, and then going to it another time with somebody who's scared out of their mind, they're screaming, they're yelling, and then somebody gets hurt. I do think that, whatever it may be, the spirit, whatever, there is an interaction between your energy and their energy that manifests the reaction and the response that you get. We have a haunted doll, Dove, who at her prior home, she was scratching people to the point of drawing blood like 2 to 3 times a day. And when she got here, I said right off the beginning, like I said right from the beginning to her, I said, we don't scratch here. We don't cause harm. I know in your prior environment, when you did that, they did what you wanted. That's not going to work here. I said, here, if you don't scratch, you'll get what you want. And if you do scratch, like, I'm not going to negotiate with that. She's never scratched. She's been here for almost a year and never left a mark. And this was like a haunted doll literally drawing blood on people for a while, for many years. And so I think that has something to say about it. But we also don't interact with them out of fear. We don't disrespect them. We don't call them names. We don't, try to provoke a response. We don't demand they do something. We don't demand activity. And I think all of that plays a role in how they behave because in other settings, they can be very different. I mean, we had something, we've had it a couple times where we brought one of our haunted dolls to a location and they met somebody and did something totally buck wild to that person that I've never seen them do in our house. So we've seen that a couple times where people have a really negative experience with one of our spirits when they're not in our home. And I'm like, what does that have to, what does that mean? So,
Interesting.
yeah.
Well, what I would like all four of you to do is because there are so many amateur collectors that are out there. May only have one doll, but they could have a few more, or they're looking to increase their family, if you will. So, starting with you, Morgan, advice for those out there that are looking to build on their collection, just to get that same kind of harmony that the four of you are experiencing right now. Give the best advice out there. Morgan, starting with you.
So I'm kind of a chaos collector. I like getting things secondhand from antique stores and trying my luck. I don't recommend everyone do that. In fact, for especially new people, I think Taylor's approach is better. She looks into the history of dolls and doesn't really buy things secondhand that she doesn't know what she's bringing into her house. So I recommend researching and being careful.
Researching. I'm going to ask you because I wouldn't know what you meant by that. Researching how.
So,
Uh,
especially with Taylor, she buys from a very specific doll collector on, I think it's Etsy. Is that right, Taylor?
Yeah, there are multiple haunted doll sellers on Etsy and eBay, in particular, who are investigators who pre-investigate the doll and give you a summary of what their activity is, who they are, their information. So you're not going into it completely blind and hoping that you have good luck.
Mhm.
okay.
I think
Eric?
that's way smarter.
Eric, your input?
I would say about the same, but just going a little bit on what Morgan said about doing research. Yeah, if you're buying stuff on Etsy, you're probably going to have more description on what you're buying, more information on what you're buying. But if you're going to like an antique store and you're going off of energy and you find something you're getting a lot of energy from that you think might have something attached to it, the best advice that I could give as far as doing your research on it would be to contact the person who's actually selling it, because a lot of antique stores and secondhand stores do the selling based off of the person who brought it there. So if that's available to you, I would reach out to who's actually selling it, get what information you can off of them, and if you do get information, good. If not, what I would do is, I guess, trust your gut in that case, or if you roll the dice and buy the object, I would do some investigating on it once you brought it to your home or wherever you feel safe bringing it.
And by investigation, I know a good portion of what you're gathering together, Taylor Mitch, is doing communication sessions
Mm-hmm.
to get some of
Yes.
the information in expectation that you're going to get truthful answers and not something that they're just trying to be deceitful with. And even in that circumstance, again, the advice for collectors that are out there, how do they tell the difference?
Sometimes you can't.
Yeah.
Yeah, sometimes you can't. It's just tracking inconsistencies and writing down every piece of information you get. And if it matches over time consistently, that's a good sign. If every time you talk to them it's different, that is not the best sign in the world.
Yeah,
But
keep a notebook.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Taylor has like a whole archive of information
Yeah.
on their dolls.
I think it's really important to trust what you feel. I know, like, personally, I would like have a certain emotion be felt or something like that, and then I would be like, oh no, that's something else, or that's not related to the haunted dolls. I think trust trust yourself and spend time really trying to analyze how you feel or the thoughts that you're having or things like that and how that could impact the space around you, or impact them. I know the best time we've had with our haunted dolls is literally just like doing normal stuff. Like, I have one of our haunted dolls, Jeremiah, we'll watch football together. Or like one of our haunted dolls, Iris, who likes video games, I'll like bring her in my office while like I'm on my computer and she'll hang out with me. So it's little things like that that can be really beneficial to just create more, as much of like a friendship as anything. Because like I would imagine if I was, a spirit, I would want someone to at least like acknowledge that I was there or interact with me a little bit. It doesn't have to be like overly crazy. But I think it takes time to kind of get a feeling for whatever is happening.
Build that bond.
yes,
Yes, I
so
think that's
important.
super important.
So important. Because then you also have an idea, of who they are, the intention behind the activity. Is this silly activity or is this somebody's mad? And you understand why they're acting the way they're acting. I think my biggest piece of advice too is before you start collecting, really ask yourself, like, what is your why? Why do you want to do this? Like, what is your motivation before, like, for getting started with this? I think there are a lot of people who go into haunted doll collecting with like a really high expectation of like, oh, I want to get a haunted doll because, I want a spirit to help with my health. Or, oh, I want a haunted doll because I want, this good thing to happen to me. Or I want a haunted doll because I want a super high level of activity in my home. And they have these really big expectations for these spirits before they even ever show up at their house. And I think it's really important to try to avoid going into it with that mindset, because when you do, you put that spirit in a position where you're kind of already at odds from the beginning, because they're trying to meet this like unrealistic expectation. Like, I see so many people, get a spirit who's quiet, reserved, and doesn't have a ton of paranormal activity associated with it. And then they get all pissed off because they're not super active. And it's like, that is not a good way to build a relationship with a spirit. And when you put a spirit in that position, you're already at odds with them from the beginning. And that's when people have problems. So, going in with just like an open mind of like, if I try to go in with an open mind where it's, I am willing to take this spirit into my home regardless of what the activity looks like, the attitude is, the behavior, whatever. Like, I accept them for them. And I do think that's really important, because those really high, grandiose expectations for paranormal activity is kind of a recipe for disaster, in my opinion. So I see that people run into trouble with that a lot.
I just want them to float around the room. That's all I want. I'm not asking.
That's fine.
We have some fantastic questions coming up from our audience, and also I have a few more questions once I get back on there. But Ken, if you want to join us here for a second and take us to break, when we come back on the other side, more conversations about the haunted dolls, Whispering Ridge Syndicate, joining us tonight. You're watching Dead or Live on the Dead or Full Spectrum channel. We'll be back right after this break.
We'll be right back after the commercial break.
I was built to last with the webs I'm weaving. I could change the past with all I'm achieving. Got my foot on the gas, never stop competing. If you break like glass, then this life's gonna end.
I wanna be the best in the game, invest in my name. Check no restraints, I'm obsessed with the pain. I ingest, I retain, assess and I change. Possessed by the thought I'll be free one day from society's restraints. Money, clout and fame, mud, disease, a plague. We all love to hate, have to play the game, have to make a name. All our insecurities are on
This is war with the enemy. Think that it was meant to be. Living in a time where disease is on every screen. I won't let them fester me. I know most are festering. Negativity is a plague for the mentally weak. No mercy, all I got is working. Never stop searching, never quench the thirsty. I'm toxic and psychotic with this logic. You can't stop it, it's been chronic since I was a boy, so neurotic and chaotic.
Go to last with the webs I'm weaving. I could change the past with all I'm achieving. Got my foot on gas, never stop competing. If you break like glass, then this life's gonna eat 'em. Make mistakes real fast, then you learn how to beat 'em. If you take off the cast, you can see all the healing. If the pain's in the past, move on from the grave and put your foot on the gas. No, never stop competing, yeah. I've been doing this, I'm on it. I just wanna be iconic. Sipping on a gin and tonic, got me going off when I'm on this.
And now, back to our show.
Okay, guys, welcome back to the second hour of our show tonight, and Whispering Ridge Syndicate.
You got it.
Actually, I'm getting used to it now. I kind of like it. Joining us tonight, talking about the haunted dolls. And again, one of the quick reminders, guys, tomorrow night is our Patreon town hall. If you have not become a Patreon member yet, what the hell are you waiting for? $3 a month. You guys can get in there with us on our Monday nights. Everybody on screen talking about the field, talking about the families, talking about everything in and around the paranormal and beyond. So if you'd like to join us on our Patreon membership account, just go to patreon.com/Dead Air Paranormal, and you'll be able to talk with Ken and I and so many of the other wonderful chatters, friends, and family that have joined us over the last year here on Dead Air Full Spectrum. So looking forward to seeing you guys come join us also.
Mm-hmm.
And we're also on on Discord, so you can check us out on Discord on Dead Air Full Spectrum hosts on Discord. Come and chit chat with us. And the people on screen, I think I don't know if you're all on there with us. I know that Taylor's with us. Morgan, are you with us also on Discord or no? Yes, see?
I think so.
Yeah.
Am I?
Just spoiler alert. Mondays, I'm not trying to sell it, but it gets kind of weird in there.
Yeah, we've been doing a lot of weird things like remote view sessions, and then
It's fun.
every once in a while, Ken updates us on some of the drama going on in the field, which is always kind of cool. So it's a really great gathering. We go from
So
8 o'clock p.m., sometimes an hour, sometimes two, depends on the topic. Oh, Jeff Hilton, how are you, my friend? But anyway, back to the show and back over to Ken. I've got questions from chat. I'll be getting to you guys here in the second half of the second hour. So in the meantime, Ken, over to you.
thank you, sir. And I'm going to try to get through these things because when George comes back on with the questions, we get a ton of them for you
Ooh.
tonight. So that should be fun. Let's go back to Annabelle. Um,
Boy.
I'm
David,
ready.
Let's do it.
because of David's research, his candor, his straightforwardness. I don't know if this was, I'm not going to speak for David, you'd have to ask him, but if he ever had it in mind that this is the best route to go in order to stay away from the whole Annabelle thing. And it doesn't happen overnight because Robert has his stories. You're never going to get you're never going to reach everyone. But it does get rid of some of the fog that we've seen around Annabelle. And in the long run, I hope that he has a megaphone because it's never to say there's not something going on there. It just may not be the thing that
Right.
that we've been pounded with. So if you want to comment on that, that's fine. But I think David, knowingly or unknowingly, is kind of doing himself, the museum, Robert, the spirits there. I think he's doing them a solid by doing that.
I have
Agree.
Hmm.
David has changed my opinion on haunted dolls in museums. I have had a big problem with that for a long time, primarily because of how Annabelle is treated and how she's demonized in that containment box, and just the treatment she gets is atrocious from both the public and not the public. And the way David has also taught the museum staff and the people who do the tours how to interact with Robert, how to talk about respect, he breaks down the fear mongering, he educates, he treats Robert so well. Robert's not in a containment box, that's a display case. I know Morgan said that earlier. He really has changed my opinion on a lot of that because Robert is happy there. I mean, he is. I mean, it was, irrefutable. At one point, like David's name was brought up both on the wave session and at Estes. Robert was like, David, David is here. He's here. Like, so
He's the
excited.
boss.
He's the
Yeah.
boss. He's
Boss.
here. David is here. Like, he really, really adores him. And I think that, David has really changed my opinion on that of there is a way to do this. And I think he's doing Robert so much justice, and he's also doing the field as a whole so much justice by educating in the correct way about the correct things, rather than playing into the fear mongering for money. Like, I really, really appreciate how he does that.
Mm-hmm.
But it'll really make your heart break even more for Annabelle, seeing how well Robert's treated.
Yeah. If David's methods were the standard amongst haunted items in museums, there would be no problem. No one would have any issues with haunted objects being in museums.
But I don't think that'll ever happen for Annabelle.
No.
They make too much money putting her in that box and throwing holy water at your face when you look at her.
Yeah, we've done a lot of looking into like paranormal research versus paranormal entertainment, and I think it's meant to sell you, right? Like you go and there's music playing and the lights are really dim and all this kind of stuff. Where when you go see Robert, it's just kind of him,
Him and his stuff,
him
and
and
his
his
little
stuff,
chalkboard.
Leo the Lion and
There's no show.
there's
It's
no
just
show.
it's
It's
just the
just him.
doll.
He speaks for himself. Uh,
Mm.
no pun intended.
Yeah.
So
Well, I mean, I'm not trying to be a punk here, but Annabelle she's an attraction. I'm going to put it
yeah, no,
in the
100%.
kindest
Well, they've made
possible
her into
way
one,
I
Yeah.
can.
absolutely.
Yeah.
She's an
Exactly
attraction.
what it is.
She is an asset. Another polite way of, because I'm not trying to dump on anybody. I'm not trying to be a jackass, but I mean, she's an asset. As is Robert, but Robert's contained because he's fragile at
Right.
this point,
Yeah.
where there's all sorts of stigmatized things going on around Annabelle, and I can't speak to this spirit attachment or whatever energy is attached to them as you do, but from what you're saying, it's got to be a rough existence when no one advocates for you the way David has advocated for Robert the doll.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
Right.
we've even talked to some of our spirits, and they've even told us like, hey, we appreciate that we're able to be here and you're able to talk to us, because I've been at this place before and this person didn't treat me right.
Mm.
Or sometimes it's as silly as, well, I didn't like this person because of the way they looked or something like that.
We
We've
have
had
had
that
that, yeah.
too. But I think it's just, it's like it's positive until proven negative, not negative until proven positive.
Mm.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. But it's circles back to the original point, whether intention or not. I like to, anybody talks to Dave, ask him this. If anybody, if I don't and I don't have occasion, because I'd like to know his thought process, because if nothing else, if this is unintentional, to just sort of reinforce it, even if it's by accident, it's like you're kind of doing the right thing here, keep, keep singing that song. We want to get to the videos because we got a ton of questions. We don't have to go anywhere. If we go over, who cares? I don't. Let's talk a little bit about the Estes method.
Yeah.
And okay, so let's look at big picture here. Kind of walk us through your process. I mean, I think everybody knows what the Estes method is out there. If not, put it in chat. But with that a given, what was the approach in that place? Because they're all like snowflakes, all locations are different. So,
We approached it the exact same way we would approach a haunted doll in our house. No different. We didn't do anything differently. We just were like, we're going to talk to him. We're just going to have a conversation. We're not going to, it's not going to be this big spectacle. We're just going to have a conversation with you.
mhm.
I think we had very good luck because David was kind enough to tell Robert about us coming in advance and like let him know like they're coming to talk to you. Their purpose is to talk to you, make friends. Like he really briefed him on it in advance, which was another thing that I really appreciated David for, because I do think, there's something to be said about, investigators just flooding into locations all the time and the spirits not knowing what's going on. Robert was briefed in advance for us coming and what we would be doing. And so he was like excited about it. And we just approached the Estes method like we would with the spirit in our house. Like, we're just going to talk to you and get to know you, and whatever happens, happens. And whatever doesn't. You do a lot of the questions. What was kind of your take? He's always the question asker.
I mean, I just kind of treated it like any other time we went into Estes method. I think, I wouldn't like if someone had their first conversation with me and then tried to figure out my entire life story in the first 5 minutes of, me talking to them.
Yeah.
So I just try and get them to talk in any way that I think is relevant. We figured out pretty quickly how to like get Robert to, what, they wanted to talk about, which was pretty easy.
Mhm.
So that's the goal is to just kind of, have a normal conversation. It doesn't have to be about like, tell me, all the deepest, darkest secrets. Tell me exactly, how you're able to do this and whatnot. Sometimes it's simple as like, oh, I heard that, some people have negative, experiences after coming here. Do you know anything about that?
Right.
And they can choose to answer it or not answer it, So yeah, easy.
Something we had that was interesting, and we had no idea. We were actually given a name by the spirit. Identify themselves as Lainey, and David said that's the first time they've ever gotten a name before. I was like, what? Like, I was so shocked by that. It was like such an easy thing. Like, we didn't think anything of it. It was just like, what's your name? And they said it. And David said it's the first person to ever get a name. And we got this name Lainey, which was really interesting, because there's always been this theory of who this kid is and who this kid is not, and with that name, I was able to kind of dive into like cemetery records locally and all of this stuff. And there was only one person with that name. We were also given the age 5. There was only one person buried in Key West with that name and that age. And it was not the servant's kid. It was like some random kid. So it does lead me to wonder, obviously I don't know if that kid was even buried in Key West. That was just like where I looked. But I found that interesting as well, as like, is that even the kid of the servant? We don't know. So that was unusual as well.
Well, I mean, and I know how you go about your business. It's kind of like, I know it's low hanging fruit, but when I hear an investigator say, "So, did you die here?" I'm like,
right.
Let's, by all means, let's get right out of the gate bringing up the worst day of this individual's life.
Right. We
I
never
mean,
I'm
asked about
sure they're
that.
going to love
it's
to.
off the wall. That'd be like no different than asking someone else, is like, how do you think you're gonna die? Imagine if I came to you and that's the first thing I asked you.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like,
Yeah,
ring, ring, what's the worst thing that's ever happened to you? Tell me now. And if you don't, that means you're a demon and you're hiding something from me. Like, of course they
yeah.
don't want to freaking tell you that, So we were like, what's your name? And, they dropped the name and we're like, oh my gosh, but we're not going to dig into, the who, what, where, when, why, and how around somebody's passing to figure that
Right.
out. It's not
I mean,
fair.
unless we have a more aggressive spirit like John and Hinton, I won't really care to ask how he died in that situation.
Oh.
But with someone we know, like, or like we are kind of expect, or we're just trying to get answers from, like Robert. I mean, the Estes method is literally just a tool to communicate with them. It's no different than just talking to someone else. You're just using a tool to do it.
It feels like minor bullying in a way. It's like, how'd you die? It's like, what's wrong with you?
Yeah, it's so aggressive.
We do so many things. Like, investigators do so many things with spirits that you would never do to somebody in real life. And when people
Yeah.
ask me, "Oh, what are your tips for a new investigator?" My first tip is like, if you wouldn't say it to a living person, don't say it to a dead one. Like, that's it.
Yeah,
It's
I
just
can see.
basically.
I can see, it's like we've done public events and people come in and you explain EVPs to them. They've seen it. It's like, well, you're going to participate in this. So I tend to be a lot more, tolerant. Not that they need my blessing. Who am I? But, when the questions come out, I may try to sort of modify them a little bit or say, ask it this way. Don't say, in other words, if you're asking about children, don't say, anything about them in the past. Say, how are your children? Speak in the present.
Mm-hmm.
Assume they are, everyone is whole again. No one's suffering, I think that's important.
Yeah,
So
trying to keep it as
public
neutral.
events, fine. I see investigators do it. What I think is, like, you're not prepared for this. You should have, it's almost like running, a football game. You have a script of plays that you start at the beginning. So your opponent declares what you put them in different situations, see how they respond. It's the same thing, but I'm a jock, so I can't help it. The wave session is the Estes, correct?
No, the wave
No.
session. So the wave is it's a spirit box portal.
Okay.
So it's basically a spirit box where there is reverb added and static removed, so it's a little bit more clear and easy to understand. We were in an echoey room, so some things you'll hear us translate that you can't hear as well on the video because that room echoed really horrifically. But the Estes is obviously, that's the headphones and the blindfold. The wave is actually on a speaker, so you can hear his voice, which was really important for us to do because I wanted people to hear what he sounded like, because I thought that that would help break down a lot of barriers when you can hear truly how friendly that voice is. And you're like, what are we scared of? Like, what are we scared of? And you can hear, hello, everybody, like so clear. It's like, what this is who you're afraid of. So getting his voice was really important. And that's why I included that
Yeah.
one.
I know that feel. This sweet old woman is actually a homicidal witch. you know. All right, so this is about 4 minutes long. I'm going to go ahead and play this and play it for our audience tonight. You can follow along at home and back on the other side to answer whatever questions you have. So here we go.
Hi, Robert. It's nice to meet you. How are you doing today? Can you give us the name of the spirit we're talking to right now? Well, it's very nice to meet you. We appreciate you letting us come and talk to you and hang out with you earlier too. That was awesome. I brought some new friends for you to meet too. What did you think of them? Well, that's awesome. I'm so glad to hear that. What's your favorite part of being at the museum?
We heard from the tour guide today that a lot of people like to write you letters.
What do you think of the letters people send you?
We also heard that sometimes people write you letters if they did things that were mean to you. I'm sorry that people do that. It's not very nice of them. Well, we want to hang out with you. We're really excited to get to know you.
Yeah, we're looking to make friends.
And I will
That's more
say,
of our vibe.
and I love your line. Also, we were on the tour earlier. The tour guide mentioned someone by the name of Ozzy Osbourne. Do you remember?
And you were setting off my meter every time he said Ozzy Osbourne. What's the deal with Ozzy?
Did Ozzy say something mean to you?
Yeah, that wasn't very nice of him.
I'm sorry that happened.
I'm sorry.
Sorry about that, Robert.
So, one of our spirits told us that we should bring you French fries. Have you ever had French fries before? How would you feel if we brought you some French fries?
No.
He said no.
Not interested in French fries? That's okay. They're
That's
meant for
okay.
everybody. Isabel just really wanted to know if you like them, if she likes them.
Exactly.
What's a food you like better than French fries?
Did you have pizza?
I did. Yeah, I heard that. Did you say pizza?
Yeah.
So fast.
I love pizza too. That's a good choice.
Now, the other thing everyone always tells us to get here at Key West is key lime pie. Do you like key lime pie?
Stop. You're probably sick of hearing about pie about living.
You done talking about food?
Well, let's talk more about you.
What has it been like being friends with David? He's a really nice guy.
And I think one of your previous owners was named Gene. I'm sure you enjoyed spending a lot of time with him too.
The attic room is really beautiful. Did you like it up there? Alright, Robert, we're going to give you a little bit of a break to relax, and then we'll talk to you again in a different way with the headphones, if that's okay with you, on the regular spirit box. Is that okay? Well, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate you talking to us. This is awesome.
Thank you, Robert.
Thank you, Robert.
Bye-bye.
Okay, so breaking it down, at what point, what was the most surprising thing?
Honestly, it was just the like how friendly and how willing to just to have a conversation. You know, it's like people have this huge blown out thing of who this spirit is and what they're responsible for, and we go in there and just like have a conversation with him like we would any other spirit. Like it was truly no different than like talking to any other haunted doll we've worked with, any spirit at a location. It was just a spirit, you know. It wasn't this villain at all. I mean, we're talking about pizza. Like,
I'm down with that.
I have a different answer, but it happened during the Estes method. Taylor usually gets wiped during that, and everyone around her is okay. Like she'll come out and she's just tired because they have to use her energy. I fell asleep in the middle of it for no reason.
They chose me and Morgan as batteries to give Taylor our energy.
Like if you watch my footage, I had to cut it because it just flops into my lap because I fell asleep.
And I came out wired, and that's the first time that has ever happened. I came out like hyper as hell from that Estes session. I was like vibrating. Like the whole time I was there, I was like shaking, like all like buzzy. So it was interesting because it was as if like usually I'm the one who gets drained because I'm the one listening, but it was like reverse this time, and that was the first time that's ever happened where the people watching got drained instead of me. It was definitely a unique experience.
Right. I'm tempted to play this in the background while while we have a conversation because when we had David from the museum back in many moons ago, really bad Wi-Fi. So this is a great picture, and for people who hear and see visitors talk about it, this is a very big doll.
Yeah.
Yeah,
This
big.
is a very big
It's
doll. You
huge.
could see that clearly in the wave session. But what I wanted to ask, and before we kind of move on, because we do have a lot of questions for you tonight, as you can, see that's kind of going on. One of the things we like about our show, and we try to do when we bring guests on, is we're always mindful that there may be someone out there going through something, whether this is a psychic, a demonologist, an investigator, someone from law enforcement, whatever it is, somebody is going through something out there. If, in fact, someone is in possession of an object like this, and let's say it's something generational, it's in heirlooms, so they're not ready to pass it along to Tej or Cody and Satori or John Zaffis or whomever. What is the coping mechanism like? So let's keep it simple. Just talk a little bit about that. How would you address anyone out there who feels as though that there's some object that is active in their home, and in some way, I'm not jumping to conclusions, it's evil and it's awful, but it's active. It can be annoying, it can be irritating, it can be distracting. So how do you address that with, the person out there might be dealing with something like that?
I think my number one piece of advice to people dealing with something is to always try to remember, even though it's hard, right? Like our bodies are hardwired with this negativity bias. Like our brain immediately, if we don't understand what's going on, we immediately assume that it's bad. And I always encourage people, if they're experiencing paranormal activity of any kind, to try to remember that activity does not equal intent. Like we don't always know the intent, and until we do, by investigating that spirit, by talking to them, etc., just because something fell down in your house doesn't mean that that spirit's trying to do something bad to you. Just because your technology glitched, it doesn't mean that your spirit hates technology. Just because your door slammed doesn't mean that that spirit is mad at you. And to try to remove this human nature to assume intent on activity if you don't know. And I always tell people, just talk to them as if, they're a living person in your home, and just remind them like, hey, I mean no harm to you. I hope you mean no harm to me. Like we're good. I have no problem with you. You're okay. And I also tell people like a good way to make peace with a spirit is offerings, simple things. Give them a piece of candy, to show that you care. Just letting them know that you don't have a problem with them being there, and that you guys can live together respectfully, can go a really, really long way in managing some of that activity.
Yeah, I would imagine so, because any investigation or anything when you start out really basically comes down to two questions, doesn't it? Who are you and what do you want? Not in a bad way. Why are you here? And then you may find out, are you trapped here? No, I just don't have anywhere else to go. And you kind of take that for what it's worth, but it doesn't happen overnight. It's building that bond and that relationship. Let me see. What else do I have? Oh, okay. So let's end with this because I want to come back for the questions. So this is going to be good. So after your visit, do you believe Robert's haunted, psychologically powerful, historically misunderstood, all of the above, or maybe add something to that that's different?
I would say all of the above is correct. I would say he's definitely a vessel. Haunted, I guess, is just the technically correct term. He's
Yeah.
absolutely misunderstood in the public eye, but while it's greatly exaggerated, I would absolutely, and I would say this for any haunted object or anywhere you go, just treat them with respect. I mean, no one enjoys having a guest come in their home and then being insulted or being threatened or anything like that. I mean, I don't know if it's directly Robert is the reason that these people are getting such intense repercussions, but I mean, regardless, it's happening. So I'd say that's probably the only thing of Robert that stands true is just be respectful.
Like you should with any haunted object, though.
Yeah, and I think it's a lot of investigators and haunted doll collectors want to put haunted objects into these boxes of good or evil. They're either 100% good or they're 100% bad. I think Robert is one of those spirits that is chronically misunderstood. I have a couple spirits like that here where they really don't fall into either box. They don't fall into 100% good and they don't fall into 100% bad. It really depends. The experience you have really depends on who you are going into it. So I would say, more than anything, Robert really is. I think it's actually like a gift, to be honest with you. Is Robert really is a one of those spirits that is a direct mirror to the morality of who he's encountering. And when you're dealing with a spirit like that, I think it can tell you a lot about yourself and your own energy if you're willing to listen. If that spirit interacted with you in a negative way, why is that? What happened? Think about yourself, not oh screw this doll. It's what did I do that spirit interpreted in such a way, and how can I be better going forward? So I think in a lot of ways, Robert is a lesson, and I wish more people saw that.
Yeah, Robert's not going to do anything negative without reason.
Right.
Mm. Well, I think that you made an important point that we learned something about the locations and probably the energies, the spirits that remain. But, we learned things about ourselves. We learned patience, we learned compassion, we learn diligence from research and things like that. So, regardless if to what degree that you're invested in this, like anything else, you can learn something about yourself and get better at it. So it's something to strive for. We got a lot of questions. I'm going to bring George back in here now because he may have a couple of things that before we go there that he'd like to cover. But I'm definitely coming back for the questions. We got quite a few here tonight, so I want to be on screen for your answers. So we'll see in a little bit.
Yeah, just a couple of follow up questions that I want to ask both of you as doll cohabitors. I don't even want to say owner because I don't want to get cursed. So, as doll cohabitors, would you ever consider in your dialogue with the dolls to ask them if, through energy communication, that they know of someone who needs them? Let me explain that as an example. Let's say you have a friend that visits, and afterwards you're doing an ITC session. You're doing some sort of a session where you're asking them questions, and they somehow, some way, bring up that individual by name or the person that was here with it. You know, they're depressed. I know I can help them. I can be supportive of them, my energy. Something like that. Would you be willing to part to assist that individual?
Yeah, if that's what the
Absolutely.
spirit wanted, yeah, absolutely. And we've had um, kind of this happen before. One of my friends was going through a situation with her mom. Her mom was very sick and lives in Brazil. And she had to travel to Brazil by herself. And she was extremely anxious about that. She was very scared, just of like, basic safety stuff, traveling alone and all of this kind of stuff. And she asked me, because she has worked with my spirits a lot. She stays here. She's a caretaker for them when we're not home. She's just wonderful. And she said, like, would you feel comfortable with me taking a couple of them with me on my trip? And I was like, yeah, if they're okay with it and they agree with it, yeah, absolutely. And we sent two of our haunted dolls with her to Brazil for a couple months. Terry and Diego went with her, and it was the best thing for her and ended up actually really helping the family as a whole. Her entire family sent back. They came back with little bags of like gifts from her family in Brazil.
It was awesome.
None of them believed in haunted dolls before they went, and the whole time they had so much joy, like working with them, so much fun. It was like a great experience. It was something to take their mind off of all of like the crap that was going on medically, and they had a really amazing experience. And so it was a good experience for our spirits. They got to go on a really fun trip, and it was a huge help for both my friend and her family, like during a time of need. And so I was really grateful that we were able to do that for her.
Morgan, Eric?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean,
we don't have a ton of haunted objects.
but I mean, like Taylor said, it's up to the spirit. I'm not gonna hold anyone here hostage. I wouldn't do that to a human being. So if there's somewhere else they need to be, absolutely.
And it's kind of like what you said when you came back. We're not like the owners of these things. We're just the people who
We pay rent so they can live in a house.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah. If they want to go somewhere else, like that's on them, not us.
Yeah.
I mean, we had a situation where somebody gave us a haunted doll. We had her for a year, and the person asked to have her back, wanted her back. And fortunately, it was a very mature situation on all ends where we were both like, it's not up to us, it's not up to you, it's a completely up to her. So we pulled her for a wave session, and she said very clearly on the wave, like, I want to stay here, I'm staying here. And that individual was like, that's totally fine, if that's what she wants, she can stay there. And we try to put it in their court because ultimately it's their afterlife, it's not mine. I'm lucky to cross paths for them at the time that we have them for however long that is. And if they want to stay here forever, great. If they don't, that's also okay. It's up to them. It's completely like, we are not. And I think that's something that is really important for haunted doll collectors to realize is like, you are not their owners. You may have paid for the vessel, but you do not own their soul. And that is not, we're not playing God and saying, oh, this is how you're going to spend your afterlife. It should be 100% up to them.
I can't tell you how proud I am of myself for making this astute observation, but this entire show, without the presence of Jer, has gone without any issues whatsoever. No
That's why I
glitches,
started doing these downstairs instead of upstairs.
no
Is because,
freezing, yeah, nothing whatsoever. Isn't that fascinating?
yeah, that's why I started doing podcasts down here and like bringing spirits down that will not mess with my cameras, because I was getting kicked out of every podcast. And it was only when I was a guest on podcasts. It was never our own podcast. So
You say that like he doesn't mess with our recording several states away.
Every time.
He's done that. He has shown
does
up at
that.
Morgan and Eric's house. Morgan and Eric have a little spot for him because he showed up and was causing havoc. So now he has a little.
Yeah, he has a little toy spot in my room.
Jer makes his rounds. If he catches wind of somebody that he likes, and we say it's okay, he will show up at people's houses. He's a menace.
Okay, let's get to these questions. Ken, if you want to come back on screen with us here, because there's, as he said, there's quite a few, and I want to
I
give you
just
guys
added like 3 to it.
more.
Don't make any plans tonight, folks.
All right, we'll start off with the first one here from Appalachian Ghost Tours. Do you think Robert misses Jean?
I don't
And
see how he
explain
couldn't.
and explain
Yeah.
who Gene
Yeah,
is.
I agree.
I think so. I would say so.
And
I mean, that's where
Gene
Robert got
was
his
the
name
original
from.
boy, correct?
Hmm.
Yes.
Yeah.
Who had him his entire life.
Yes.
I think with all haunted with all haunted dolls of spirits, they do remember the people that came before them. We have names on previous spirit keepers of several of ours, and they talk about them sometimes. And if they had a good experience with them, they do miss them. So I would say yes. And when we did bring up Jean's name, which was quite a few times, we got very fast responses on Spirit Box in regards to like it was always like yes, like right away. So I would say so. I mean, he didn't say that explicitly, but given the behavior around talking about him, I think so.
Yeah.
It leads me to do follow-up questions, but I don't want to spoil any of the ones from chat before we do anything like that in case they cover it. Ken, you want to read the next one?
If you'd like. Zach Waters asks, so, is there a soul of another human trapped in the doll? If yes, is the soul truly trapped there, or does it want to remain in that vessel by choice? I guess Zach's talking about free will here versus something else.
So
Yeah, that's kind of a tough question. I mean, we have a lot of our spirits that they kind of see the vessel as like their home, somewhere that's their space. But a lot of them can leave their vessel.
yeah, they're not trapped in
they're
the
not
object.
trapped in
The
it.
object is kind of something that they are attached to for one reason or another, and
Yeah.
they manipulate that object. They're not within it, I guess. If that's a more clear way to say that.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
And some, I don't think there's any such thing as like trapped, but definitely like attached without wanting to wander off into, I don't want to say the unknown, but like, I mean, it's a safe space for them.
It's like a safe blanket.
Home
I would
base.
put it as like home base, where
Yeah.
it's like it's they leave, they can go places, but like they always tend to come back to it. It's kind of like that.
Yes, we have a very endearing term we like to use for some of our spirits when we know they're not in their vessel. We say that they're out of office.
Out of office. So when Jared leaves the house, Jared's out of office.
So
He's
like
in Morgan's house.
sometimes you can tell if like we're with someone and they're just
Like nobody's
like
home.
you can just feel that someone's not there. Like, oh, they're out of office right now.
Yeah, nobody's home. Yeah. So
Real-
they leave.
I know you promised no follow-ups real quick, but is it possible the doll is also being haunted? Because people talk about haunted dolls as though they've come to life. They're animated. There's something in them. And I think we talked to David about this before, that there is a spirit adjacent or with that particular item.
Yeah.
Not the idea that something is inside the doll and
Right.
Correct.
It's not like, there's a little boy's soul inhabiting a teddy bear. There's a little boy manipulating said teddy bear. If that makes sense.
Right, yeah.
Yeah.
Much how like multiple people can be in a room, multiple entities and spirits can be attached to a vessel.
Yeah,
I think of them holding the thing
There's
instead.
activity that goes on in a haunted house. It'd be no different.
Right.
Correct.
The house itself is not a spirit, right? It's just there's a spirit, that goes around that house. It's the same idea.
You put it well, like each one is like holding.
Yeah, that's how I think of it. They're holding the object. That makes more sense to me.
I like that.
Yeah.
I like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Got a follow up also from Zach Waters wants to know if you took Robert and just randomly hid him in someone's house or car who didn't believe in the paranormal, would paranormal activity happen?
Yes.
I wouldn't say paranormal activity so much as just consequences.
Yeah.
I think Robert just wants to be seen or heard very badly.
Mhm.
And even if someone does not believe in the paranormal, I think they would experience some things that would alert them that something might be happening.
I also would argue that Robert is one of those spirits, and there are some of these spirits where skepticism is a huge trigger. I would say Robert is one of those. We have a couple of those where if you don't believe, they will make you believe. And we've seen that a couple times in our house where people do not leave skeptics. They leave you either come in believing or you leave believing, because they're going to show you and they're going to prove themselves to you. And I would say Robert is definitely one of those spirits, and that's part of why he manipulates so many things is just to be seen and be heard. And like when those things fell down in my house, you know, I every time things would happen, I would just say, "Oh, Robert, I see that you're here," and then all the activity would stop. It was just like this need for acknowledgement, and so I do think that that would happen.
What's interesting is the way that Zach poses this makes me really wonder too about perspective. If you get into a fender bender, and now you're going to say, you know, the other person was probably texting, or I was distracted. I was looking in the glove box, you know, whatever. I wasn't paying attention. And so as you're getting the vehicle repaired, you see Robert the doll in the trunk. Now that's the cause.
Hmm.
Now that's the cause. And it's the energy and Robert. And I had no idea. It's funny how the perspective changes based upon
Yep.
that, too.
Yeah.
The
Uh,
automatic blame, yeah.
yep. Ken, got the next one?
Yeah. But even if, you know, in that accident, George, even if you blame it on somebody else, it still happened, didn't it?
Still happen.
Rebecca Hilton. Hi, Rebecca. And oh, by the way, Zach, good question. Good question, bro. Taylor, in your doll collection, which one do you think shows the most activity? Which one is your favorite? Oh, you better be careful about
Oh
You
favorite.
boy.
better answer
Oh
carefully.
boy. People always ask me this and I'm like, you know, it's like asking somebody like which of their kids is their favorite. It's like I can't pick, and if I did, I would get in huge trouble. I would say in terms of activity, it's hard because all of them have such different activity and different things that they would do. I would say our second haunted doll, who continues to be one of our most active, would be Jeremiah, who's that giant teddy bear you see, who has made appearances on Dead Air several times before. He is very, very busy. He has a ton of activity surrounding him. The other one that is very active is Jessica. She's a very tall one in like the green beaded dress. She's always behind me in my videos. She's like mannequin sized. She is extremely active. So is CL. CL has like a black clown vessel with flowers on his cheeks. He's in a ton of my videos. He's more he's a mental manipulator, for sure. He messes with people's brains, as does Haro, who is our little bunny guy. He'll mess with your brain a lot. Eric has
Mhm.
experienced that in depth.
Haro will make you feel emotions.
Haro
Yeah,
will make you feel like your pants are on fire.
he'll make you see things. He'll make you hear things. Like he can really give people a good time. But they're pretty active ones. And Connor, who wears the top hat, who throws himself on the floor a lot. He's a busybody. He launches periodically. So yeah, those ones. But favorites, like it's really hard to pick a favorite just because I adore them all for very different reasons. I would say the ones that I have the deepest connection to because I know them the best because they just talk so much would be Jeremiah, Hoshiko, CL, Phineas. We talk to a lot. Phineas is around a lot. Haro is making a name for himself for sure. He's still newer, but he's showing up a lot. But those ones we talk to religiously because they need to chat. They just need to. So we know them better than others for that reason.
But you never talk to the house anymore. Um, Next question on the chat side. And I guess, you know, take away all the equipment and just go with that instinct. But Cindy Really, 5365 asks, does anyone feel it's a child's presence or many aged spirits?
Um, I think this is in regards to Robert, would be
Hmm.
my
Yes.
guess.
And
I
this is
think
for
so.
all four of you.
Yeah, I definitely think there is a child spirit that's probably the
Primary.
primary dominant leader spirit, however you want to classify it. But I think there's other spirits that are involved there as well. I don't know if aged, like older would be the right way to put it. I think they're just different spirits. But I definitely think
Yeah.
the child is the one that's probably most prevalent. And I think that we felt that way like if we were taking pictures with them. I felt like Robert was like very much trying to like smile and be excited about it. Or we were talking, like you could tell the answers were like
Very kiddie.
very kid-oriented answers. Like, what's your favorite food? Pizza.
Pizza.
Like, yeah, totally. Like, oh, like, hi everybody. Like, it was just very
Very
cute
young.
and young, which
Very
is
young.
awesome.
Yeah.
Morgan?
Yeah, the main one definitely a child. I actually didn't talk to any of you guys about this. Do you think there's anything inhuman attached to Robert? Because I felt
I do.
something just
I
like,
do.
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. I
For
think
sure.
it's a kid, and I think it's what David says, which is a kid and two primary non-human spirits.
Yes, that's what I think it is.
That's what I think. I totally agree with him on that after
I
experience.
definitely felt an elemental attached to Robert.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Could be the material he's made of or something, but yeah, like something beneath the surface there was like not a human.
But also
Yeah.
very dormant.
Yeah, I don't think it. Yeah, nothing negative, but
Yeah.
It's
not
almost like
human.
it just watches. Like it's just like a guardian that steps in if like stuff goes
Yeah.
sideways, but
I mean,
otherwise just kind
that
of
could be what's causing the repercussions of being rude to Robert.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Are you categorizing these non-humans? I mean, other than what Eric said with elemental, anything that you would categorize these as?
So David's thought was the Cabald, which is a type of spirit from Germanic folklore. I've done a lot of research on that, and actually, when I was talking about Cabalds, is when I started having all my technology go haywire. Funny enough, and looking at, there's no way to know for sure without Robert confirming that himself. There's without that direct confirmation, you can't say for sure. But the Cabald profile, which is what David went, on those trips to explore. The Cabal profile absolutely does match the behavior, but it's hard to say without, again, that verification from Robert, which I'm not sure you would ever get because there is a degree of secrecy involved. We did Estes method last night with Saya, who was on the trip with us, and we started asking her kind of about um, what he was, and Saya got super cagey and like would not tell us. And that's very unusual for her. So I do think there's a degree of that where we may just never not know, or we may never know. And I think that's something as paranormal investigators we need to learn to accept is sometimes it's just an I don't know, and I don't know is okay. And I feel that way about this case where I got myself into such a hole of researching, and I just finally got to the point where I was like, I don't know, and that's okay. And we're just going to go with that. But there is a kid there for sure too.
Yeah.
And maybe some future time that answer will be given, but on
Yeah.
their terms. Mr. DaCosta, next question for you, sir.
Okay. Want to say real quick, another shameless plug. Somebody was in chat asking about town hall. Yes, it is Patreon, $3 a month. We meet on Monday nights. There's a whole lot more in there. There's investigation footage, evidence, bloopers, tutorials. So take a look around, see what you like.
And
Joe,
and occasion a guest. We've actually
and
even had
occasion.
David Sloan join us on a town hall, so you never know.
And soon to be coming live investigations from some really amazing places.
Yes.
Okay. Patreon exclusives. All right. Back to the show. Is it just me, or do sometimes spirits go, that's not what happened when others talk about them? No, it's just you, Joe. I would imagine. I would imagine that's the case a lot of times.
Oh yeah.
Yes.
I mean, imagine if someone like said a lie about you.
Mhm.
Like, that's not true. Like,
CL loves to tell people they're wrong
They-
about him
all the
all the
time.
time. CL will be like, "Shut up, you're wrong." It's like, okay, thank you. Oh yeah.
That's TikTok and Facebook and YouTube. That's where everybody tells all our lies.
We've run across that where we just had communication like, don't like who's in here now. They make up things.
Yeah.
So yeah, if you've got any kind of a pipeline to them, don't think for a minute that they're going to sit on that.
Mm-hmm.
And nor should they. It's like, I did what now?
Mm-hmm.
I've left this earth. Can I at least have my name?
Right.
Right. All right.
All right. Next question from the triumphantly returning Jeff Hilton. Haven't seen you in a while, buddy. I don't know if you're just hiding in the background, but Jeff asks if the paranormal community made a bigger push to show the true Annabelle story, would it maybe lower her prestige and lead to her freedom. Interesting.
Why?
I kind
You
of
don't
feel
have to let
like, in a way, it wouldn't like lower her prestige. It may lower her like notoriety, just because unfortunately, a big portion of Annabelle's, you know, her being known around the world comes from
Her
like the
infamy.
movies and like
Mm-hmm.
The Conjuring franchise, yeah.
like this like the one you see from the movies. But like I think in comparison with that, if people were to start exploring her more for what she really is, she would become more famous amongst people who actually want to get to know spirits and what actually happened.
So it's kind of like your existence, for lack of a better word, revolves around that. Going here, being shown, going there, look out, don't touch, don't even look at her, perpetuating. Listen, it's the Warren story. That's the way I look
Yep.
at everything. That's the
Yep.
way I look at the Conjuring house. It's the Perrin story. Do you believe it? Do you not? It's the Perrin story.
Mm-hmm.
It's the
Yeah.
Warren story. Think whatever you want, but I wasn't there.
Yeah. And even though they're dead, they have people who continue to follow the exact same narrative, and that was arranged in advance. And I think with Annabelle we'll never know because the opportunity will never be there. If you go investigate there, they review your footage, and they tell you what you can and can't post, and they can edit your footage, which is why I won't
Mm-hmm.
go. And I think that says a lot. If I can't post my own opinion without you reviewing it, I think, that tells me everything I need to know about what's going on.
Right. I think
Personally.
that everybody can have an opinion about Annabelle. We're using Annabelle, it could be anything. And you can have your own opinion. I have mine, a little twinkle in my eye here. I have my opinion of the whole thing. But there does come a point that it's not my story to write.
Right.
You
Right.
know.
I think it's a sad state of affairs that we here in the field, who are doing the legwork correctly, and that includes Ken and Rise of Paranormal. When they worked, and the people that he's associated with worked at the Conjuring House to dispel a lot of the myths. People came in there expecting to be attacked by Bathsheba. All of that lore had to be dispelled. And, all of a sudden, it's a fairly peaceful, though active location. You could say the same for a Robert the Doll. You could say the same for an Annabelle, that the activity could certainly still be there, but what constitutes the lore, I think, of the people that go there and manifest it themselves.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah.
And,
And
and
like with Annabelle, they put on a haunt attraction to go see
Yeah,
her.
they did.
Like they're trying to scare you, so you feel
yourselves.
just as scared like when you were watching the movies.
And I
Yeah.
don't understand why you would pay money because it was not cheap to go see Annabelle.
No.
Um,
No.
you pay money, you go in there and you shriek at a doll that's in a box and has to just watch you scream at her. That's abuse.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I hate it.
Yeah. Which I think Ken did on the battleship. That didn't turn out too good either, Ken. And shrieking, no. You guys are coming into spring thaw now. As we wrap up tonight's interview, what's on the horizon for the syndicate coming up?
Congress
Chicago's next.
Hotel.
Yep.
Yeah,
Chicago.
Congress Hotel in a couple weeks.
Where's that?
Congress Hotel in Chicago.
Downtown Chicago.
Yeah.
And that is all four of you going to be attending?
All
Yeah,
Yeah.
and a
four
few
and
other extra friends, yeah.
Yeah.
And bonus.
And you're going to be live on Dead Air, correct?
Are we?
The look of shock.
you want us to be?
Like news to me.
What night is it on?
The 13th, I think.
Yeah, isn't it Friday and Saturday?
So
Yeah, we're
Friday.
going to be there Friday and
That's
Saturday.
wild because Ken, you're doing an investigation that same time, correct?
What time frame is that again, please?
Friday the 13th.
And Saturday the
No.
14th.
We're going to be at SKP Pierce Mansion on the 15th, which is Sunday.
Yeah. So
Which is funny because Friday the 13th is also when we saw Robert. So Friday the 13th seems to be our new day, I
2
guess.
months in a row, yeah.
It is accidentally.
Yeah, twice in a row.
I don't
Paranormal
know.
year.
It was just a coincidence, but works out, I guess.
If
The
we get 6
vibes.
Friday the 13th in this year, then we're doing pretty good from the paranormal. That's the best part. You guys are awesome. I'm so glad you got a chance to meet Robert. So glad you got a chance to go down to Key West, have your key lime pie, and get a chance to meet with Robert the doll. And we appreciate you guys sharing that with us tonight as well. Thank you once again for returning to us.
Thank you for having
Yeah,
us.
thanks for having
Yeah,
us.
thank you.
All right.
Yeah,
Don't
it was
hang
an
up just
incredible experience.
Don't hang up just yet, but we're going to close out with everybody. Town Hall tomorrow night, guys, 8 p.m. Eastern. And again, if you've not joined us on Patreon yet, it's patreon.com /Dead or Paranormal. We'll see you tomorrow night for our Town Hall members. Rest of you guys, we'll see you next week. Until then, my name's George Lopez with Ken DaCosta. Have a great rest of your week. Take care.
I see her rolling up, Uber black Cadillac, high heel boots and a sexy body full of tats. Baby's bad, oh baby's hella bad. After her there ain't no coming back. Wanna take a run at that. I think she's feeling me, turn it up a few degrees. My imagination of her body gets the best of me. Oh gosh, she's such a tease, bitten lips, bruised